I've edited thousands of videos in my time, and there's a couple that have gone seriously viral. So I thought, why not break down a few of the reasons as to why I think they went that way and see what we can learn for all of our videos moving forward. A big reason for their success, and probably the key reason, is that I live in Sydney. And because I live in Sydney, very few things within like the YouTuber space actually ever happen here. So when something does happen here and I've been able to capture it, then that becomes a big deal, a talking point that people want to know more about. You know, notable people doing notable things in a place where notable things don't usually happen, at least within this industry. There's a reason that my friend was shown one of my videos by one of her friends randomly because they were shocked at one of these events that was going on that I happened to capture. The first one of those videos being,
"This is how I got this free Prime stuff in Sydney, Australia. I heard it was going to be a nice day out, so I decided to head to the city where I ran across this crowd. They seemed to be just standing there for a while, kinda weird, not gonna lie, and then these two random blokes popped out on this balcony. They seemed to be followed by TV cameras. Are they famous or something? Someone let me know. After they disappeared, the crowd then started being pushed forward down this alleyway, where they were handing out this suspicious substance. I mean, as a child I was told to never take suspicious substances from strangers, but I guess none of these guys got the memo. So, in defiance of my mum's instructions, because I'm a cool dude rebel, I decided to take one anyway. And
okay, let's start with the script and what I think I did right here. Initially, obviously, I'm establishing the key topic of conversation, Prime, which was also a key talking point, you know, in the world as they were receiving their huge growth, but especially Australia as it had not yet officially been released. You could find them in little like convenience stores every now and again, being like illegally smuggled in, but officially it was not yet released. So it was at a pinnacle point of notoriety. So after establishing that hook, I thought it was a good idea to establish the context of the situation, add a bit more personality into it. But obviously I made that as short as possible because people don't really care. It's just like, you know, this was happening and now let's start the story of the day. Okay, I was going out to the city and then I ran across this event. And by me framing it as not knowing who they were, because obviously I knew who they were, like I'm Gen Z, but by framing it in that way, it induced huge engagement, which I think boosted the video immensely. It meant that people were playing into my joke and being like, oh, that must be Deji and Jake Paul. And there were people who completely and utterly didn't understand the joke at all. And it was funny to see these back and forths in the comment section. And all of a sudden the algorithms are like, people must really love this video, let's keep pushing it out even further. And I think additionally, because especially these creators, you know, KSI and Logan and the way these products are talked about, they're always with this sort of high energy. By me bringing that high energy way down, it creates this contrast that kind of stands out and sticks with people. And it means it's not like, you know, when you see an ad, you always recognize an ad and it's an instant swipe. But if there's some sort of contrast there, it kind of sticks around a bit longer and you're like, hold on a second, this is different. So I would presume that also played a big factor in this. And the reason I'm just guessing with all of these things is, these algorithms are a slot machine. Yes, there's things you can do to improve the odds, but largely it is still just put your money in, put all the time and energy into making a video and hope for the best. And once I established that they had done their meet and greet, it's like, why stick around for it? People get the gist, they appeared in front of a crowd of people, let's move on. And then it starts looping back to the beginning. And the loop really helps because for one, people noticed it, engagement further again, but also it means that people don't quite know the video has ended. So they keep watching into the start of the video again, which once again improves engagement because they've watched it for longer. And potentially it means there's less of a barrier there because if there's a sudden stop, it's a conscious effort to then go back and watch it again. But if it keeps looping, you're like, oh, maybe I'll stick around for a bit of it a bit further. If you see the retention here, it's way above 100%. 100% is at 5 seconds, meaning that 50% of people actually go back to the beginning of the video and rewatch through the first 5 seconds. I also made another video from the day, which was technically the most popular on YouTube, which got, you know, insane level of views for YouTube. Once again, it picks up well above 100% and just keeps going. And this one did well because it was before Logan KSI even showed up. It was me trying to find some of those illegally smuggled in primes. So once again, it was a big talking point. It's not officially available. I'm saying it still is available. You can still find it. People are asking where can they find it. And there's a clear narrative of me going on this adventure to locate this forbidden substance. So once again, it did very well comparatively. And interestingly, a lot of them are from search, which doesn't make sense because how is it going to get, if it's got, let's say 230,000 views or whatever, how is it going to be getting like 190,000 searches? It did, somehow. It doesn't quite make sense, but I'll take it. The script, it probably only took me like half an hour to write. I don't know why I don't have any other drafts here. I must have deleted them at the time. But the next set of scripts I'll bring up absolutely do have some drafts in them. So now let's get to the actual video itself. Currently, there's no captions on it because at the time I brought the video into CapCut because back then the captions were much better through there, but now Premiere Pro's auto captions are perfect. Well, not perfect, but much, much better than they used to be at least. And I think as well, people will often say that you need these fast cuts and high energy, but I don't necessarily think you need that. Like, it can help by having more cuts, you can keep the attention going because people aren't getting bored. But if you're having like an engaging narration, by having fast cuts, that can just be overwhelming, and especially depending on which target demo you're aiming for there. For the opening scene, I just hold on to it for a while because it gives the point. It's like showing the prime beverage and reinforcing what I'm talking about. It doesn't need to cut between a million things. I also didn't have the clips cut between a million things, but it's not the point. And these clips, they're kind of rough, but it doesn't really matter because it gets the point across. Once again, it could be much better. It could be much more cinematic. And there's a really awful cut. It's just rough, this one. It's just not good, but it's fine, it works, and then moves into a better cut here, a sort of match cut, because the camera is moving in the same direction. Different speeds, once again, not ideal, but I managed to get away with it regardless. So it's very quickly going from, hey, there's this prime thing that's been handed out in Sydney, you either were there or you missed out on it, then being like, okay, I went into the city, I saw this huge crowd, they were all waiting, who are they waiting for? Oh, cool, your favorite YouTuber's on this balcony. And then you move on, it's like, hey, we get the gist of there, and then goes back into the end of the loop while making some more humorous jokes, I guess. The perfect way this video was constructed to, I think, create the most engagement possible was that it targeted every single target demo, pretty much. It's kind of like, what was it, when Margot Robbie was talking about, could Barbie hit every single target demo for, was it young male, young female, old female? It's the same sort of thing here, because if you liked it and you were there, then you were talking about that. If you don't like them and you were there, well, you probably weren't there. Or if you like them and you weren't there, you were jealous. Or if you don't like them and you weren't there, you're going to complain about them, and if you don't know who they are, well, then you're going to complain about what are these young kids doing nowadays. So it means that every single person, regardless of whether you like them or not, or whether you knew of them or not, is going to have some sort of stake in the game here, which once again creates engagement and allowed it to pop off to its millions and millions of views across platforms. I also made some other edits out of it, which didn't quite get the same level of engagement, but didn't necessarily do too bad in themselves. So, you know, using Logan Paul's face, instant engagement because people are already familiar with him, where people don't know me, going to this massive crowd, it's like, whoa, what is this going on? And then pushing to my photography right there. So once again, promoting, I guess, my skills and abilities on the back end by using their names and faces, which helped when trying to produce my magazine that I did, and that's one of the photos from the day. And originally I didn't know whether I wanted to go in the first place because I was like, oh, it's a bit of an effort. It had already been cancelled like across Australia because the police thought it was unsafe, and then they rescheduled it early in the morning. I was like, this is an effort, and I'm glad that I went, and I happened to hang out with a friend who was also going there that morning as well, who, thank you for giving me your phone footage because it allowed me to produce this video. And now onto the next video.
The most hectic crowd I have ever been in. And it was all thanks to these British YouTubers. A few days prior, they posted this on their story. But because they're not as big as KSI and Logan, and more mainstream than Yes Theory, I thought the meetup would land somewhere in between the two. How I was wrong. I was greeted to the stampede of a crowd at least 5,000 strong, running around the centre of Sydney trying to locate the members of Beta Squad. After 45 minutes, they finally showed face. But because the crowd was so large, they were unable to get half their members onto the stage. So after another 45 minutes of trying to get the crowd to make way, they surrendered and surrounded themselves with 6 bodyguards and pushed their way through in an attempt to escape.
This was the video that my friend was shown by her friend. And once again, within the script, I'm trying to establish some key beginning that keeps people interested. The first one being, hey, it's Prime in a city that doesn't have Prime yet. Where here it's about, people may not know Beta Squad, they're less popular than Logan Paul and KSI and are a lot less controversial. So what is the point of controversy here? What is the point of interest? It's that it was this hectic crowd that was completely and utterly not under control. So it's like, okay, let's start it very strong, most hectic crowd I have ever been in, and it was all thanks to these British YouTubers. Because once again, if you know them, you'll know them. If you don't, you're like, why did these random British YouTubers I've never heard of induce this sort of crowd? It seems like something I should have heard of. And above, this is, I guess, me trying to figure out at the time what was that key line there that I needed to focus on. I think for this script, I very much just pretty much copied and pasted the KSI and Logan one, just changing in certain things, because here again, it's just one sentence establishing the context, very brief, and then go straight into it. I also name dropped KSI Logan here and Yes Theory here, just I think to establish a bit more legitimacy in the point that I'm getting at, and also it keeps like a certain energy going there. It's not just like, hey, this thing happened, hey, look at them, I'm gone again. It just adds a bit more length, a bit more depth that may not be there like was in the Prime video. I pretty much just had to guess the amount of people there because I tried looking up numbers and no one gave it to me, so this is a complete and utter guess. So after already, capturing the audience, establishing a little bit of context, a bit more context with some other bits of engagement of like, oh, these other people were in town, having a little bit more context again with points of notability of like, that's a huge number doing this crazy thing. Then it's like the final reveal. This is what you've been waiting for. But usually, if you have that final reveal, people leave. That's why you find YouTube videos nowadays, they'll just like end. As soon as the podcast is finished, it'll end. There's no like outro because people will just be like, okay, the video's done. I'm gonna move on now. But you manage to negate that by continuing the story. It's like, yes, this is the reveal, but there's more that you want to stay around for. So after 45 minutes, they finally showed face. And then you see crowd reactions, panning into the crowd, the hectic nature of it. Okay, is this going to go anywhere? And then it's continuing on, like, what is the effect of this crowd? Yes, they created this crowd, but what happened as a result? And then it's about them trying to basically escape this mob, this stampede of kids. And then once again, looping back to the beginning, creating the same effect as I discussed prior. And I did the same thing here with the captions. I just did that later in CapCut, but I started with a high energy clip. So this is actually in polar opposites to the KSI and Logan pool. People already know them as high energy, so I'm bringing it down. Where people may not know Beta Squad, so I'm bringing it up. It is this stampede. I have to represent this stampede by having this high energy clip. Even if you don't know who they are, you're like, this is shocking. I have to stay around for what induced this, because this is like sort of a mass panic, like what's gone wrong. And I had so many comments of people like recognizing themselves in this clip, being like, oh, that was me running wearing this item of clothing. So once again, it hits those same all the target demos that I was talking about before. And then from that crowd, instantly capturing attention, start going to who they are. So if you recognize them, it's like, I want to stay around and learn. And if you don't know who they are, you become curious in itself. Easily established context, once again, cut between two makes it a bit more engaging than just having one extended clip. Name drop a bit, establish context that people don't often come to Sydney and the sort of range of reactions that you could receive. Me, because I've realized that, especially for the Logan and KSI one, and even partially this one, people don't care about me, right? They care about what is being talked about. But if I'm wanting to build a long-term brand, let's say you're a reporter, if you're only filming forward, there's no attachment to you as the person documenting that. Yes, there's some different examples if you're talking about like Christopher Nolan and whatever, but to a degree, this was kind of put in there, yes, kind of like that shot of Circular Quay in the other video, but also having context of like, here's me as the storyteller, and that I'm Massa in telling the story, and that, hey, I exist. If you recognize me later, stick around. And once again, a bit more of a face shot to establish that me being bumped into, once again, reinforces the stampede, is also establishing my brand. Being in the middle of the crowd, reinforcing that chaos, once again, popping to them, managed to get some really nice clips with my camera and telephoto and really high quality, because otherwise with the phone, you're just too far back to really see anything. And then once again, once the topic is delivered upon, what I said I would deliver, I delivered, you're going straight to leading into the loop, but while engaging still with some bit of interest, saying they had to surround themselves with bodyguards, sneak out of this massive crowd, and then loops back to the beginning where that same effect happens. Wow. Is that more? Yeah, that's higher. Okay, same 6 seconds, let's say. Oh no, 7 seconds to get back to 100%. That's mental. So yeah, people are really looping to the start there. The thing is, it's hard to create these videos on a constant basis because I'm here in Sydney, which may not be a fact for much longer. So really, overall, the biggest factors being some crazy event that's going on and trying to capture that event in a way that whether you know who they are or don't know who they are, like them or don't like them, it creates some sort of interest. And if you want to find out more about these days, I publish the best photos and even more stories in my magazine, which you can find down in the description.